So from the wilds, we take you into the wild, but rather back into a domestic environment where more little beasties are invading. A big welcome back to our pest control expert, Silverfish, to talk about, quite frankly, weird little creatures, okay? Not quite as hectic as cockroaches. Today, we are dealing with silverfish. Dun, dun, dun. Jaco, welcome back, my brother.
Hi.
What are they? What is a silverfish? I know them as fish moths, okay?
Well, silverfish, fish moths, they're both the common name. I'm not going to bore you with the scientific name. It's very long and we can't pronounce it. Yes, it's a very primitive insect, actually. An interesting fact about it is the term silverfish or fish moth. When you have a regular moth and you touch it, it looks like a powder that comes onto your hand.
Yeah, that stuff, yeah.
Now, it's similar with this one, but it's not really a powder. It's a scale. So their body is actually covered in scales, so that's actually where the term fish...
Hence the fish name.
It's included in it, yeah.
So when you say primitive, does this mean they haven't evolved? Or they've stayed in a particular form? Like, how do they fit into the grand ecology?
Well, if you look at insects, you've got three different types of development for certain insects. Like this one's what they call an ametabolic. So your young is the same shape as the adult. It just grows up. Okay. If you look at something like a cockroach, they've got a nymphal stage, and it goes through certain developmental stages, but ultimately it looks like an adult. Usually it gets wings. Yeah. If you look at something like a bee, for instance, which is more evolved, they go through what we call a larval stage and pupa and those type of things. So this one is a very old type of insect.
They are prevalent in most homes. I think people are terrified that they're going to get into your clothes. I remember we used to have those mothball things that we used to put in clothing and stuff. I'm sure deathly poisonous as well. How do they get into our homes? How do they breed?
Unfortunately, they are all around in the garden areas and so. They're under leaves and logs. And the difference is that they just get into your house underneath doors, any small space, piping,
because they're
those
tiny.
Type of things. Yeah, they fit through most spaces anyway.
What do they eat? What attracts them into our homes?
That's the problem. We've got a host of food for them. They have an enzyme in their digestive system that can actually digest cellulose, which means if you have clothes that are starched, they can actually damage your clothes.
That's why.
If you have books that's got the lining at the back, that little glue lining is actually starch. So they are attracted to that as well, and they'll eat that. And they'll also eat paper. So we've got a lot of food for them in the house as well.
You insidious, unevolved little creatures, you silverfish. Hugely interesting, and I think a lot of people dealing with them. We're going to get into possibly how we can control them within our homes. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions for Jaco, 021 430 9881. We're going to continue the chat in a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
In a banner, but silverfish are in your cupboard, quite possibly digesting your clothes. An incredibly interesting conversation we're having with Jaco Silverfish. I'm going to call you our pest control expert, but I know that your CV goes far beyond that. But this morning, and last week again, we were focusing on those pests that we find in our homes, and silverfish are everywhere. We've proven this. They can get under doors, they can get in, and they seem to love a lot of the things that we keep in our homes to eat. How do we prevent them? What do we do? Well, is there a way?
For people in a normal home environment, the best step would be regular cleaning. That is the first step. Then you can move over to proofing and using an insecticide and those things. But it comes back to moving away your fridge, and especially one of the biggest things is if you have a garage and there's a bit of a moisture problem in there, and you have boxes stacked there. They love it.
Absolutely. We've all been there, though. You go and get that last final box at the back, and you lift it up and think, oh, it freaks me out. No, I think, and this might be a complete misconception, but there is this idea, and even looking at them, because of their shape and their size and how crafty they are, can they crawl into your ears? I think a lot of people are terrified, not just with these, but that they're going to get into your ear while you're sleeping, and that they're going to lay eggs or something or nest there. Has this ever happened? Can it happen?
No, that's a major misconception. That doesn't happen, no.
and Christmas beetles, okay, although I did once hear of a Christmas beetle getting inside someone's ear, and that's just freaked me out completely. So are they harmful in any way? Should we be worried about them as pests?
With the exception of what we discussed with paper, books, clothing, that type of thing, no. From a medical point of view, they are completely harmless. They won't bite you or hurt you or anything like that. So No,
And again, we'd love to hear from you if you've got any conundrums. 021-430-9881. Give us a shout. Do they nest? Do they lay eggs? You mentioned that they have a pretty simple kind of life cycle process, but how do they spread within a home? Once they're in, will they stay there, or do you have to wait for new ones to come in? How do they kind of live in that sense?
Well, the bad news is if they don't get eaten by something, they can live for up to 5 years. They don't build a nest like a little hole where they'll stay. They'll walk around. If they lay their eggs, it will be in a little crack or a crevice, and they'll move on wherever the food is or wherever they feel safe. And that's how they move about. So there's no one place that they're going to nest like a rat, for instance.
You can't really target them in that sense. How many eggs do they lay?
Typically. That's a good question. I don't know.
that says to me a lot. They really are a freaky little thing, and I can't believe that they've actually got scales. It's almost something prehistoric, hey?
Yeah.
It feels like it, yeah.
Yeah, like we said, it's a very primitive insect. It's
crazy,
one of the earlier
man.
ones.
We'd love to hear from you if you've got any questions relating to silverfish or fish moths, as I call them. We now understand why they are called that. 021-430-9881. That's the number to dial.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back as we head into the wild that is our house. Dun, dun, dun. We've been dealing with over the last couple of weeks those creepy crawlies that find their way into our homes and are quite difficult to control. Why? Because they are tiny. And I think there is kind of maybe it's our overactive imaginations. There's something quite scary about these things. But we've had some interesting questions come through, and we've got Mad on the line right now. Mad.
Yes, good morning.
Nad, hey buddy, sorry we butchered your name there. Nad, welcome to the show. Do you have a comment or a question for Jacob?
Yes, good morning, Jacob. I want to find out if there's any natural insecticides that you can use to get rid of pests. I killed one this morning.
Very good question. Natural or environmentally friendly insecticides?
Well, insecticides, not really. It's usually a chemical. Well, if you look at things like pyrethrins, that's if you know what a chrysanthemum plant is.
Yeah.
That is an extract that they get. A pyrethrin is an extract from the chrysanthemum plant. So that would be your most natural insecticide. For home use, you can actually use a variety of herbs. Like, for instance, lavender is something that people put in their cupboards all the time, but it's not going to kill them. It is just a repellent.
Okay.
It's like citronella oil and those type of things as well.
Okay.
Like I said, the most natural will be pyrethrins.
Oh, there you have it. Pyrethrins, or go for one of the herbs, one of the pungent herbs, a citronella or even a lavender, and then at least your clothing smells nice and doesn't smell like mothballs. And we were laughing that it's an association most of us have with our grandparents as you walk into their house or their study, and there's just the smell of mothballs. That obviously is quite poisonous, so you want to be really careful there. When we look at controlling them within our home environments, you mentioned being eaten by something else a moment ago. So they obviously fit into a food chain there. What typically would prey on a silverfish?
You know, the thing that preys on it the most, and you're going to love it, is spiders.
Oh, man.
So if you have a house full of spiders, chances are you're not going to have as many fish moths as you.
Oh man, I don't know if you feel comfortable introducing spiders as a natural pest control, but they actually, and I've heard ridiculous numbers about how many mosquitoes they eat as well. So maintaining the ecosystem within your house, that is quite an interesting approach. But I think when it comes to humans, we mentioned cockroaches and the role they play in the bigger picture. When it comes to carrying diseases, do fish moths or silverfish carry diseases?
Okay. Like mosquitoes, they're not vectors, which means they don't transmit it themselves, like malaria, for instance. Malaria, you actually have to be bitten by a mosquito to get malaria.
Okay.
Now, because they go about drains and don't walk over the most hygienic places, the chances are they can spread a bacteria or something like that. But because they usually hide in hard-to-reach areas, like in the garage, in the boxes, underneath, behind cupboards.
They're not crawling all over you when you're sleeping.
Yeah, the chances of them actually contaminating a surface that will be at risk to you is very low.
I mean, I wish we didn't have to look at all these close-up pictures to see them in all their glory. But they really are kind of the ultimate creepy crawly here. Again, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, Yaku, 021-430-9881. We're going to do a bit of a recap on how we can control these little beasties within our home in a moment. Whoa.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
And time for your skin to start crawling again as we get back into our creepy crawlies with Jaco Skeepers, our pest control expert. And you really are an expert, dude. Your knowledge about insects is mind-blowing. We've got Daniela, I think, on the line, all the way from Jersey. A very good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thanks. I expected to hear a far more desperate voice on the other end of the line. I know you've got a bit of a problem. What's your question?
Look, Graham, if you think you've got nightmares, you haven't come into my closet. I've got mothballs. I've got about 20 of them lined up across my cupboard. I've got them inside my shoes. I've got them all around my clothes. So my clothes always smell like mothballs. And these things still come, and you can actually see the bite marks on my clothes. You can see moles. You can see it takes out the linen, the lines out of my clothes. It's ridiculous.
I know. I'm amazed. I was amazed here when Jaco said they actually have an enzyme that dissolves, the starch that's in our clothing. Very good question. You are not alone, sister. You are not alone. A lot of people dealing with this.
Not even spray works. You can't kill these things.
So what does she need to do? Does she go to the source? How does she deal with this?
Well, it's a very good thing you mentioned now. It sounds like a rather unique situation. I'm really sorry.
We're laughing with you, not at you.
Yeah. In a situation like that, it's best to actually contact a pest expert to come and have an inspection at your house, because there's usually a source somewhere where it's coming from that somebody's missing. Whether it's coming from a drain, whether it is a dampness problem, or something, there should be a solution, but it's kind of hard to just say over the phone or without seeing a place what's going on.
So I know we want to avoid having things like pesticides and stuff in our house, but there are people who can manage that situation and make sure that you aren't wasting money on clothing. So just get it done. But I think time to speak to the experts, son, before you lose any more clothing.
Right, thank you so much.
Thank you. So just an overview, we know that they are simple creatures, yet they can get into all the nooks and crannies. A great way, just in general, to keep them out of your home, or to at least keep them in check.
Okay, best would be to start with the small things and obvious things, like if you have a door that's got a gap underneath, those little bristle strips that you can put at the base of the door, put those things up. If you have any piping leading through a wall where there's a gap, close that up. Like we said, usually garages is a bit of a problem, and they do tend to come through the drain, so drain cleaner may also help to some extent. Small things like that. If you have windows that are open, sometimes putting up fly screens in front of them will also help. And I know you guys don't like it, but if you keep your garden natural, and if there's spiders, don't kill all of them. If there's geckos, don't kill all of them. That takes care of itself. I know we spoke about the whole environment balancing itself out. So if everything is in balance, usually you don't find as many of them as you should.
We got, I think, time to squeeze in one last call. Aleppa from Johannesburg as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm very good, thanks. And what's your comment or your question for Jaco?
You know, my comment is I had a plague of these fish moths in my house. They were in all my cupboards, all over. And then what I did is I took, when you bath with normal soap, that smells nice. And then when it's small, then you don't want to use it, you just throw it away.
Yeah.
So I started putting those in my cupboards, because I read some old tales from old people, put soap in your cupboards. And then I also used the green sunlight soap bar, that big bar. And you put that there as well. It seems they can't breathe. And on top of that, at least you get nice smelling clothes. Yeah. And now it's gone. All my cupboards empty, no more fish moths. It really helps.
And you're smelling lovely and fresh. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that tip. What could be happening there? Is it possibly the essential oils in the soap that is doing that? What could be going on?
It should probably be part of that. Is it works as a repellent. If it's such a strong smell, it should probably repel them as well. It can also be that the soap may help desiccate them, so they dry out a bit, and because they do tend to seek out moist places, and because they have a very permeable skin, or let's call it a skin, they tend to take up chemicals as well quite easily. So that can be part of it. I'm not 100% certain what it is.
Hey,
but
if
it's
it
a
ain't
good-
broke, you know what I'm saying.
Yes,
That's wonderful. Thank you so much to both of our callers this morning. Yaku, thank you so much to you as always. The tome of all knowledge when it comes to creepy cordies. I know you love them. They make my skin crawl, but we've got to live with them. And I suppose ultimately, if you really have to, you can go get a big bucket full of spiders and just empty them into your garden. That's all about keeping balance in the environment around your house as well. That's the best way to control pests within the home.